Everyone in our nation. Democrats on the attack, warning it will cost Republicans and millions of Americans big. The bill now faces a crucial fight in the Senate.
Tornado warning. The Southeast on alert for more severe weather after a storm knocks down buildings in North Carolina overnight. A twister destroying this store in Georgia. And a funnel cloud spotted in Atlanta at the country's busiest airport. Now the Carolinas to Maine bracing for more dangerous weather as record flooding hits the Midwest.
Inside Princess Diana's last days, the new revelations about her tumultuous relationship with Prince Charles.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
And her secret love affair, the phone call the night she died, an exclusive first look at the bombshell new documentary right here on GMA.
And on the edge of glory, Patch the one-eyed horse making a run for the roses. The Kentucky Derby long shot, who's sure to be a fan favorite. Can he win it all?
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Happy Friday, everybody. Of course, the first Saturday in May is coming up, and that means the Kentucky Derby, and a lot of excitement for that. And these are the horses just moments ago, Michael.
Beautiful, beautiful animals. All of us have been fortunate enough to go. And more than 150,000 people are expected at Churchill's Down tomorrow to watch the big race. And Patch, the one-eyed horse, a 30-to-1 shot to win. But maybe it's Patch's lucky day.
Only one eye, but a lot of heart for that horse, Patch.
Absolutely.
We're going to look forward to that tomorrow. A lot of news out of Washington this morning. That victory for House Republicans and President Trump repealing Obamacare with 1 vote to spare. The Senate up next. Expect big changes that could take some time. The Senate did pass the $1 trillion spending bill to keep the government running through September. It's now heading to President Trump's desk. And we're learning new details about President Trump's first trip overseas. First stop, a surprise, Saudi Arabia. He'll also head to Israel, Italy, and the Vatican. That's all later this month.
We'll have much more on that ahead, but first we want to get to that big health care news. After the House passed a Republican bill, President Trump headed here to New York City for an event with the Australian Prime Minister, where he celebrated the GOP's success, but also faced a number of protesters. Our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, is here with more. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey, Robin, great to be here this morning. The protesters were right there to welcome President Trump home for this victory tour, but while he is celebrating his first big legislative win, there is still a long way to go. President Trump touching down on his home turf for the first time since taking office. And right there to greet him, hundreds of protesters lined Manhattan streets as the president drove by in his motorcade. Despite the noise outside, aboard the decommissioned USS Intrepid, the president was ready to celebrate. The First Lady there too for a black tie dinner, along with Australia's Prime Minister. President Trump may be all smiles, but he raised some eyebrows when he praised Australia's publicly funded universal health care system just hours after declaring Obamacare dead.
We have a failing health care. I shouldn't say this to our great gentleman and my friend from Australia, because you have better health care than we do.
He's also praising Republicans for helping him win his first major legislative victory.
Republicans came together all of a sudden 2 days ago. It was like magic. They just came together. They're very, very united.
The president's victory tour starting earlier in the Rose Garden.
How am I doing? Am I doing okay? I'm president. Hey, I'm president. Make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare.
After weeks of debate and arm twisting, Republicans in the House voted to fulfill their central promise to the American people.
Are we going to be men and women of our word? Yes. Are we going to keep the promises that we made?
Yes. They too were met with protests.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Democrats are also taunting Republicans, predicting the bill will cost them in the midterm elections. It's still not a done deal, but what this bill would do, end the Obamacare mandate that Americans have insurance or pay a penalty. Instead of subsidies, the bill gives tax credits to help buy insurance, and it rolls back the Obamacare expansion of Medicaid. It also lets states waive the requirement that insurers don't discriminate based on pre-existing conditions.
And President Trump says he's feeling good about the prospect of the Senate passing this bill. He is hoping this leads to other legislative victories. Next up, they're looking at tax reform.
Yeah, hopes this gives him some momentum. Let's talk about the Senate now with our congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce. As you see right there, it passed the House with just one vote to spare, Mary. Now there are a lot of challenges ahead in the Senate, beginning with the fact that the Senate has to do something that the House didn't do at all, have that Congressional Budget Office analyze the impact of this bill.
Yeah, George, this is likely to be a long road, but first, the Senate needs to know just how the House bill will really impact Americans. They can't even begin without that government report explaining how many Americans could lose coverage and how much this will cost. That report isn't expected until next week, but even with that, Senate Republicans are already telling us they may start from scratch. Just take a look at some of the sticking points in the Senate for Republicans. That Medicaid rollback is a big item of concern. Even a moderate like Susan Collins says stripping funding from Planned Parenthood is an issue for her, and those tax credits, Rand Paul says that's a no-go for him. Clearly, George, there is a lot of work here to do.
Yeah, a lot of action. Of course, the Senate can only afford to lose 2 votes to get it down to 50, with Vice President Pence then then sending it along with the tie-breaking vote. But in the meantime, this is going to take an awful long time, a few weeks just to get the report from the Congressional Budget Office, several more for deliberations in the Senate.
Absolutely. And remember, any changes that are made in the Senate then have to go back to the House to be approved there. And George, as we have seen from the tense debate over the last 106 days, that can be quite difficult.
Okay, Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Let's go over to Robin.
Okay, George, we're going to break down what the current health care bill could mean for you if it becomes law. Our chief national correspondent, Tom Yamas, is here with 2 very different scenarios. I know you've been talking with a lot of experts.
That's right. We spoke with the Kaiser Foundation, which is nonpartisan, nonprofit, and they crunched the numbers last night and this morning. So let's run through 2 scenarios. First, one of the possible best case scenarios, and this is all preliminary. First off, so let's talk about a 27-year-old male. He lives in Los Angeles. He's making about $75,000 a year. He's an entrepreneur, so he pays for his insurance. Under Obamacare, he was paying $3,000 a year. That's about $250 a month. Now, with the new health care bill, the HCA, he's going to only pay $760 a year. That's a savings, Robin, of more than $2,000 a year.
Big savings in that scenario. Yeah. So what is the worst case scenario?
Okay, this is sort of the doomsday scenario, and we crunched this hard with Kaiser to make sure this was legit, and it was. So this is a 60-year-old couple. They live in Cherry County, Nebraska. They're retired. They're living off $25,000 a year, so money is very tight. They're obviously retired. Now, under Obamacare, they were spending about $1,050 a year. That's about $80 a month. That's a pretty good deal right there. Under the new plan, and again, this is all preliminary, under the AHCA, they're going to pay $44,200 a year at a loss of more than $43,000, Robin.
You know, people are going to see that and go, come on, what?
It is a shocking headline, and we went back to Kaiser, and they said there's a couple of reasons for this. The first is that older people are going to be charged more for insurance in some cases. The other reasons, this is Cherry County, Nebraska. This is very, very rural. But the big point right here is the tax credit. The new tax credit is smaller.
All right, and people can go on and they can find out, put in their situation.
On our website, they can go, if you have any questions, you can go to our website, GMA, and you get more information.
All right, thank you, Tom. Yeah. George?
Thank you, Rob. Let's talk about the political fallout now with our chief political analyst, Matthew Dowd. He's joining us this morning from Miami. And Matthew, it was a real split screen yesterday after that vote. You had President Trump and the Republicans there. They were celebrating at the White House. You had the Democrats cheering on the floor of the House after losing the vote, saying Republicans are going to pay. How do you assess the political fallout?
Well, I actually thought it was somewhat unseemly on both sides in the middle of this. You all mentioned the Kentucky Derby. It seems both sides are in the first turn and they're already drinking mint juleps, thinking it's the end of this thing. We have much more to go on the political side of this. I think right now this is a huge negative for the Republican Party, but it's a year and a half from Election Day. We don't know what's going to happen in the Senate in this, but as of today, it's an anchor for Republican candidates.
Yeah, because this bill passed through the House yesterday, as you said, with one vote to spare, even though right now it polls in a very negative way. A lot of Republicans under fire for this. You had even some House Republicans yesterday saying, yeah, we voted for this bill, but we don't think it's very good.
Well, George, the amazing thing is that Donald Trump and the GOP have managed to do something President Obama couldn't do, which was make Obamacare popular. Obamacare today is popular by a majority of the vote today. And I think when you look at the process of this, the fact they didn't present the bill early enough for people to read, they didn't do a CBO score on it, they rushed it through, all of the process, as well as Tom talked about the substance of this, is going to cause a huge political problem. Now, we don't know what the Senate's going to be, but this is an anchor. Regardless of what the Senate does, Democratic House candidates will hang this on Republicans in the fall of 2018.
What's the best case for President Trump at this point right now? Does he need to sign this into law, or do he just need that early victory in the House to get momentum?
Well, I think he needed an early victory to demonstrate that he could actually get something passed, because he hasn't done anything major in the House of Representatives or the Senate yet. He needed that. But in the end, that's going to fade away. I actually think he needs to put together a series of victories on a lot of different things. And maybe they think this will break through that dam and they can do a lot of other things they want to do. But right now, I don't think this is going to benefit Donald Trump by much in the long term.
Lots more analysis Sunday morning on This Week. I'll see you then. Matthew Dowd, thanks very much. Michael?
Thanks.
All right, thank you, George. And now to those dangerous storms hitting the southeast. A possible twister damaging homes and businesses overnight in Georgia. And now more severe weather is moving in. And Rob Marciano, you have it all. What's going on?
Hey, Michael, it's been rough the past few days, but really the past few hours starting to ramp up. This video out of Eden, North Carolina, just north of Greensboro. The last couple of hours, some severe weather rolling through there. A possible tornado tearing up an auto parts store there, and just downstream from it, Garden City, Georgia. This just outside of Savannah yesterday afternoon. This likely a tornado. They'll go out to survey it later on today. And in Atlanta, Georgia, look at this shot. That, a funnel cloud, not sure if it touched down at the Atlanta airport. There are the Delta planes right there. And there was damage done at a cargo facility. So a lot of rough weather heading up towards the northeast. This is a large sprawling storm. And now we have a tornado watch that's been extended through North Carolina and through the Norfolk, Virginia area, getting into southern Maryland as well as this thing swirls back. The center of the low still back near the flood zone across Memphis, Tennessee. By 1:30, we get into some heavy rain, a nasty day from New York City to Boston, and then some showery activity, 1 to 2 to 3 inches in some spots. Talk more about that river flooding in just a bit.
Yeah, as you said, headed our way. Thank you, Rob. Overseas now to that high-stakes presidential election in France this weekend. Voters will choose between a conservative nationalist and a young centrist who just got a big endorsement from former President Barack Obama. Our chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, is tracking that race. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Robin. The French election is big news around the world, not just because France is an important country, but because it's the next chapter in that big debate we're all having. Nationalism versus globalization, anti-immigration versus pro-immigration. And in this highly unusual move by a former president, Barack Obama is weighing in.
I am supporting Emmanuel Macron to lead you forward.
French presidential hopeful Emmanuel Macron getting a very big endorsement from former U.S. President Barack Obama.
He appeals to people's hopes and not their fears.
The high-stakes election in France set for Sunday has gotten the world's attention. Populist Marine Le Pen, an admirer of President Trump, is the anti-European Union, anti-immigrant, and anti-Islam candidate. Emmanuel Macron's platform, pro-EU, pro-trade, and more tolerant. The Obama endorsement, an attempt by Macron to tap into the former president's strong support among the French. And right now, Macron's got the upper hand, a double-digit lead in the poll. He's just 39, a novice, and he brings with him a unique personal story. His closest collaborator, his wife, Brigitte. She is 25 years older than he. They met when he was 15, and she was his drama teacher and married with 3 children, one a classmate of Macron. His parents forcibly separated them for years, but their love would not be denied, and they married years later in 2007 after she divorced her husband. She is constantly by his side, advising on policy, editing his speeches. And the French, whose presidents often have colorful private lives, have warmly accepted the couple. And she calls herself the president of his fan club. Well, the couple have no children of their own. Macron's oldest stepson is 2 years older than he is. But Brigitte's youngest daughter from her first marriage, she now works for her stepdad's campaign, and she says they're the happiest couple she's ever seen. Robin?
All right, Terry, thanks so much, Michael.
Age is just a number.
Hey.
That's right. And now we're going to go to that Delta flight incident that's sparking major backlash. We showed you that family of 4 kicked off a plane and threatened with jail because they didn't want to give up their baby's seat. Now Delta is apologizing. Rebecca Jarvis is here this morning, and another airline apology, Rebecca.
Another airline apology, Michael. Good morning. This shows you just how quickly these situations escalate, how quickly they go from being a small issue on the plane to a family getting kicked off the plane, and this morning, Delta Airlines is apologizing.
I bought that seat. Overnight, Delta issuing an apology after removing a California family that refused to give up their 2-year-old seat on an overbooked flight. Yeah, that's fine.
You and your wife will be in jail and your kids will be...
Okay, oh.
Okay.
Delta Airlines saying, "We are sorry for the unfortunate experience our customers had with Delta, and we've reached out to them to refund their travel and provide additional compensation. Delta's goal is to always work with customers in an attempt to find solutions to their travel issues. That did not happen in this case, and we apologize." Brian Scher and his family were just trying to get home from a family vacation in Hawaii when the attendant suggested the little boy sit on his parents' lap for the duration of the flight. The Schers refused and were asked to deplane.
Were we supposed to do sleep in the airport? No. You should have thought about that before you oversold the flight.
This is just the latest caught-on-camera confrontation between airline passengers and crew. In this video obtained by TMZ, a Delta pilot appears to hit a female passenger while deplaning in Atlanta on Friday. Tensions at an all-time high the past month. At least 4 other caught-on-camera altercations, including this now infamous video showing Dr. David Dow being dragged off a United flight in Chicago in early April. Now, Congress intervening, looking at several bills aimed at overhauling current airline policies, hoping no family has to go through this.
And the changes are coming since that incident on United. The airline has implemented 10 new policy changes, including they will no longer ask seated customers to give up their seats unless safety and security are a risk. Guys, Southwest is also implementing changes in the wake of all of this. They're not overbooking their flights anymore. JetBlue says they never overbooked. They're never going to overbook in the future. But changes are very likely coming to a lot of these airlines. And Congress says if they don't make the changes, they'll force them on the companies.
This is all happening so rapidly. And you called us yesterday when we did the story. You said that Delta was going to come up really big.
All right, thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Michael.
And now, Amy, you join us at the desk with the morning's other top stories. Good morning.
That's right. I'll continue the transportation theme. There is word this morning that Uber is facing a federal criminal investigation. It's accused of using secret software to help drivers evade government regulators in places where Uber is banned. That software apparently restricted certain law enforcement and city officials from hiring a ride. Uber recently said it stopped using that software. It has not commented, though, on the investigation. At least 37 people have now died as violent anti-government protests intensify in Venezuela, where the president plans to rewrite the constitution. Tanks plowed through the crowd as police fired tear gas in Caracas. 8 Latin American countries have denounced what they call excessive force used against civilians. Well, the milestone in the sky overnight, the first large passenger jet made in China has taken off on its maiden voyage. China hopes the new plane will compete with the Boeing 737. And some terrifying moments caught on camera as a skydiver's parachute got tangled beneath this skydiving plane. It happened in Denmark. His foot got caught, leaving him dangling for nearly an hour as crews on the ground, this is incredible, sprayed foam to cushion his landing. The pilot eventually landed at the slowest possible speed, dragging him on a grass field. And remarkably, he was not injured. And finally, today is College Signing Day. It is a day celebrating students who commit to higher education. It's all part of a social media campaign encouraged by, there you see her, Michelle Obama, encouraging teens to post pictures of their college choices using the hashtag College Signing Day and the hashtag Better Make Room, which signifies the hope of a new generation making an impact on the world. This is the 4th year Mrs. Obama has hosted, and Robin, you'll be joining her.
Many people will be joining because it's like a pep rally for these students, and we're going to be wearing our university T-shirts and sweatshirts. So line up, Southeastern. Line up, Southeastern Louisiana. Hey, Rob.
Hey, guys, talking about that flooding across the midsection of the country continues to be a problem. That rain very slow to move out. There it is, and the Mississippi River continues to rise. Your weekend getaway now brought to you by Avocados from Mexico.
When you open an avocado from Mexico, you open a Cinco de Mayo party, so you can celebrate any time or place.
Avocados from Mexico.
Aunt Gertrude would have loved this.
Avocados from Mexico.
Heavy rainfall moves to the D.C. area. Notice where you see the pockets of yellow and also orange. Some of those rainfall rates already reaching an inch per hour, so give yourself lots of extra time. Points southwest of D.C., that's where we find some advisories this morning. The darker shaded green zone is a flood watch until about lunchtime today. A few thunderstorms not out of the question. The two main impacts, heavy rain and also gusty winds. Drier weather ahead for this evening with those temperatures in the low 70s.
Coming up, we have the first look at the new documentary.